On this week's KSP News Show, 1.0.5 enters experimentals, and so all the details regarding the update are now released. And we just passed 900 subscribers. I want your questions for a Q&A. All that and more on this week's KSP News Show. It's actually bloody on time for once, thank God.
Reporting live from the Kerbal Space Center, it's your host, Jinli Kerman.
Good morning, evening and afternoon, my fellow Kerbanauts. My name is Jinli Kerman. Welcome back to this week's KSP News Show, and welcome back to a belated Halloween edition of this show. And this thing is far from scary though. In fact, this episode is rather awesome because today we have finally got the full details as to what is going to be in the 1.0.5 release. And to be honest, it is pretty damn cool. But I'm going to do a little bit of a role reversal with this show. I'm going to do the story that I covered second in the intro first, just so I can get it out of the way so we can get to the really cool stuff in but a moment. But I am saying thank you so much, because we have now crossed 900 subscribers. In fact, we're now like nearly a quarter of the way to 1,000 now, which is insane, and it's absolutely amazing. And I just can't thank you guys enough for giving us this amazingly high number on our channel. I never thought that we'd actually get to near like 4-digit figures now. And I just can't thank you so much. Without you guys, this show would not be what it is. And so as a result, I'm going to give back to you guys in the way I usually do, and that is through a 900 subscriber Q&A video. This one's going to be a little bit different though, because I'm going to be filming it like out in the wild, out in like outdoors, which is like it's somewhere where I don't usually hang out. But if you guys want to leave questions as to where I live and what I think about the place I live in, as well as KSP stuff and real life stuff, any question you want to ask me, feel free to throw it my way in the comments down below, and I'll do my best to answer the best ones in the next episode. Like I say, I just want to reiterate, thanks so much. I honestly can't believe that we've crossed 900 subscribers now and that we're well on our way to 1,000, because it's really cool knowing that people actually like what I make and in terms of content for this YouTube channel. And well, just thanks so much, because like I say, this show wouldn't be what it is without you guys commenting and sharing your opinions in the comments down below of these videos. So the stoppy stuff out the way, let's get on with the actual KSP news for this week. And that news, of course, is of 1.0.5 not only going into experimentals, meaning that it is close. It is no longer like a case of it may be released in a couple of months, it may be released in a couple of weeks. It is no more than like 2 or 3 weeks away, providing nothing major comes up in experimental testing. So this update's pretty close, guys. We're not too far away from actually getting this thing. Now, there are a lot of features that are coming in 1.0.5, a lot more than I was expecting, bearing in mind it's sort of the 1.1 update sort of split into 2 halves. That's just to clarify for people who were asking in the comment section last week. It isn't a bug fix update, so to speak. It's more sort of a smaller update to keep us occupied while the real performance update work is going on with the full 1.1 update, which will be out probably either. I don't want to start speculating about release dates, but I do maybe think Christmas or through to that sort of February time period. I reckon 1.1 will be released. But that's just me. 1.0.5 is what we want to feature on at the moment, and there are a lot of features to cover here. Some of them very, very major, some of them quite minor and probably not worth covering. So as usual, I will leave a link to the KSP dev blog in the description down below for you to read last Tuesday's dev notes, which is what they were included in, if you want to catch yourself up on all of the big things. But I'm going to cover all of the massive changes that are coming in this next update. So let's get right on with that. So the first and probably the largest change was the first thing that they talked about in this week's dev notes. The quote from the dev notes, it says, "Now that the 1.0.5 update is getting closer, we want to share a bit more information about it. Nathaniel, aka Nathan Kell, has been one of the driving forces on 1.0.5, fixing countless bugs and implementing small quality of life improvements that have been on our radar for a long time, but that no one had the time to implement. Over the past few weeks, for example, he has been working on overhauling the buoyancy models for the game, and as a result it's now feasible to build working boats or indeed seaplanes. Now, when I first read this, I kind of remembered something that I covered in a KSP news show a while back now, and that was rumours that Squad were going to be tweaking the buoyancy system after a number of people, once 1.0 released, were complaining that the water physics weren't really all that realistic, and I have to agree with those people. I mean, of all the things in KSP is a very realistic game in terms of its physics, but in terms of the water physics, oh my god, it was like slamming into a brick wall, and the particle effects ended up just freezing your computer. So the fact that now the water physics are now being overhauled, and the fact that it's now going to be feasible to make working boats and seaplanes. Just imagine that, a seaplane that could also be like an SSTO or something. That would be amazing. And I wonder if this buoyancy system would also incorporate submarines. Maybe, perhaps they will they will review the height map of Kerbin, meaning you can actually dive deeper down underwater than you can already. Because I think it's once you go below 1 kilometer underneath Kerbin's oceans, you just automatically explode because it's going into the collider mesh of Kerbin. So if they are actually they're tweaking the buoyancy system, I do hope that they have tweaked it enough to accommodate for submarines. That is a very, very cool change, and I'm very, very glad that they are making it, as I'm sure a lot of you will be. This next one's quite a long one to talk about, and it's regarding the new contract system that's going to be implemented into the game. It says, together with Brian Arsenide, aka Arsenide, the contracts have now also been given a critical look. The part test contracts will now depend on a constraint system instead of hard-coded values per situation. For example, it's now possible to specify how often a part can be tested. Once per body, or once per situation, or even indefinitely, or infinitely. These constraints in terms of situations, but also things like flight envelope or different speed requirements, can then be applied to certain prestige levels of the contracts. All of these features can be accessed through the part config files as well, so that modders can go absolutely crazy with this system, expanding on the modability efforts we've been going through since 1.0. More changes to the contracts come in the area of world first contracts. Currently, some of these rewards are automatically recorded, but we're changing the system up so that it applies to all progress for every celestial body. Furthermore, these world firsts are now separate from the main contract system, and they'll accumulate into one single report that shows you all the earnings you have accumulated. The world first contracts won't entirely disappear and are a good way to push beyond your comfort zone, but in 1.0.5 you'll be rewarded for new feats even if you haven't filled out the paperwork, and a new strategy in the administration building will enhance this feature. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I do think that the contract system does need a bit of an overhaul. It is kind of annoying when you go to the mission control building. You look down the list of contracts and there's nothing you really feel is possible to achieve with the technology you currently have, and you can't get any more science without flying more missions. But if you fly more missions, it means you lose funds and to get more science, and it just is a bit of a downward spiral if you get one of the randomly generated contracts. And if you decline them, yeah, sure, you can decline them, but that does lose you a bit of reputation, and it can damage your career mode save pretty severely, pretty quickly. And so I think the fact that they're procedurally generating the contracts, and the fact that they're overhauling them in this way, definitely is going to help the flow of gameplay in career mode. Now, it's going to make it a bit less jarring to suddenly from going your first orbital flight to suddenly, let's go to the moon. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So the fact that they're switching this up and they're making it a bit more user-friendly and a bit more accessible, a bit more intuitive, shall we say. And if KSP needs one thing, it's to be intuitive, I think, to get more and more people into it and into the finer aspects of the game. So really, really good change in my opinion. I can't wait to see this. Now, this next change is one that I've been crying out for a long time in several of my videos, particularly when I've been going on EVA with Kerbals, and this is the fact that a nav ball is finally being added to the Kerbal EVA system, which means your orientation and targeting ships and finding your ships again is going to be so much easier. It says in the actual dev notes. Of course, Brian hasn't just been working on contracts. A small quality of life improvements are also being developed, such as an EVA navball. This navball doesn't follow the Kerbal, but rather the camera, allowing players to look around and get their bearings to help, in particular, with ground surveys. Some issues with the science data transmission were also addressed, but mainly there is now an option to automatically abort the transmission when not enough electric charge is available to complete the task, and the science will be placed back in the container whence it came from. The advantage of this system is that it prevents the science from being devalued by repeated signal loss. If it is on by default, but you can toggle it off on the antenna if you absolutely must send data regardless of signal loss. So there are the two smaller quality of life improvements. Like I say, the EVA nav ball is something that I've been praying for since probably I first started doing EVAs with Kerbals, because I frequently kept losing my ship, and I know that a lot of new people who start off with KSP, they go to do an EVA for the first time, they shoot off in one direction at much too high of a speed, and they end up just blowing it completely and they can't find anything. And I think this is just a brilliant change overall, makes it so much easier to go on EVA compared to what it used to be. And this science change for transmitting data, I know that I've had probes in the past where I've forgotten to put batteries on because I'm thick, and I've ended up draining the electric charge, and the solar panels on the actual craft are like working their little asses off trying to get enough power in to actually transmit the data. But it kind of just goes down in dribs and drabs because, well, it hasn't got enough power to transmit it. It's not powerful enough, and the fact that it won't transmit data now unless there is enough electric charge to do it. I reckon that this is definitely a very, very good change. Like I say, it will stop the science being devalued, and that is always a good thing. Now, there is a bunch of other stuff which is covered in the dev notes, which I simply do not have time to cover in great detail today, but we do have some screenshots to show you. First of all, we have the new IVA for the crew cabin, the Mark 1 crew cabin, which I'll put on screen now, which looks just genuinely awesome, as all of PorkJet's IVAs do. PorkJet always does a brilliant job with modelling, and I'm really, really pleased with that. It looks amazing, this new cockpit. PorkJet, you really have outdone yourself this time. On top of that, we also have the new core heat system, which is like the heating overhaul. We all know the heat system at the moment is kind of flawed, and so the fact that this is being overhauled to make it a little bit more realistic, a little bit more accessible at the same time, makes it a very, very cool change in my opinion. On top of that, sort of related, we also have a new smaller fold-out radiator part, which looks very, very cool, nice and dinky. I can see that being used a lot in perhaps smaller craft that use nuclear engines, just to sort of get the heat away really, really quickly. Let's say, I don't know, a probe maybe going to Juno that uses a nuclear engine to actually get there and fall into orbit. Long burn time, so it means that you'll need radiators to radiate the heat caused by those engines away, but you don't want to fit massive radiators onto it, so you just put one of these little guys on, which looks pretty damn awesome. On top of that, we've also got our first view of the KSpedia page, which is telling you what all of these different things do, which, again, it looks very accessible, very, very cool, and I'm very glad that this has been added, because, again, it makes KSP more accessible, and it means people who are new to the game know what they're doing, and don't spend, like, hours upon hours trying to find out what they're trying to do and just crashing, because nobody finds that fun. We want to make the game not so much pick up and play. It needs to have some sort of a learning curve, but I think easy to learn, hard to master, I think is probably the way KSP is going at the moment, and I definitely do think that that is the proper way to go for KSP, because it is a hard game. The science is hard. Rocket science, it's rocket science. It's hard, but at the same time, this is also a game, and so it also needs to be very, very accessible. Well, not particularly accessible, but enough so that people aren't tearing their hair out completely. Like I say, I'll overlay the two KSpedia screens here for you guys to see. I think they're very, very well done, very, very well made, and I can see a lot of my friends who are considering buying KSP ready for when multiplayer eventually drops. I can see that they're going to find this very, very interesting. So yeah, guys, unfortunately that's going to wrap it up for this week's KSP News episode. Like I say, this is a very long one. There is a lot to cover. There may have been stuff that I haven't covered in this video. If so, then leave it down below. I would love to hear it, and I may put an annotation on the video. I probably won't because I'm terrible at annotations. But the full article, the full devlog article will be left in the description down below for you guys to go and check it out. It's this last Tuesday's dev notes, so it'll be called Dev Note Tuesdays. A big article. You can read all of that. There's some updates with regards to 1.1 as well, which is basically the same stuff that we've been hearing for the past couple of weeks, just UI work and stuff like that. But aside from that, guys, that's pretty much it for this episode. Remember to like and subscribe for more, and leave your questions down below about anything you want to ask me. I will probably be filming this on Monday though, so get your questions in fast and while you can. But like I say, remember to like and subscribe for more. Thank you so much for 900 subscribers. This is Jinley Kerman signing off, and as always, stay classy.